It just sucks that Disney didn't see the value in keeping the George Lucas name alive, and by that I mean staying true to the lore as they possibly could. Because it wasn't about staying true to the lore, it's about making money. And so what Disney does best is they throw money at something to give it more spectacle. And of course, people don't really understand the difference between, you know, spectacle and like good writing, which is why Marvel has been able to get away with so many like mediocre movies and still make money. You know, people don't really understand. The casual audience doesn't understand nuance. They don't understand nuance. They don't understand context, you know. But what they do understand is good graphics, and you know, big budgets, things like that. And so that's what Disney did. And so they took the Star Wars license that was very well known by people and just put a lot of money into it, and didn't really care about the context, because context does not matter. You know, the small things aren't what matters to a casual viewer, you know. And so, like I said, you see, you know, lightsabers being thrown around and people fighting with lightsabers, and you see like the original actors, and you're like, yeah, it's Star Wars, from a, you know, from a casual perspective. And so that's what Disney was able to do. But I feel like these games had too much context to it for Disney to say, okay, since we just can't pump these bad boys out, or because it's staying true to the George Lucas name, we want to do our version of Star Wars that we feel is going to make more money. You know what I mean? And so, you know, don't worry about, you know, trying to get all spiritual with the Force and things like that. Throw in a lot of hee ha ha funny jokes, and then just have a bunch of spectacle moments, you know. And then with that right there, you should be, you're gonna be good there. But yeah, you just can't. Star Wars itself isn't enough for me. Again, it was never just about, you know, swinging a, and I'm using these words specifically, I'm using these words on purpose. It's not about swinging a laser sword and fighting aliens, you know. It was always much more than that, and always will be. And so what they did was, it's like, oh well, let's go ahead and swing a laser sword around, and you know, that's what's gonna really put the butts into the seats and make sales. It's like, no, it's more than just that, man. I mean, it's nice, but that's not why we like Star Wars. It's one of the extra parts about Star Wars. The reason why people are fans of things isn't because of one big thing. It's never one big thing. I'm sorry, because if it was really that easy, if it was really that easy to make someone a fan of something, believe me, man, there's a lot of like specific bad ideas out there. Well, a lot of ideas that was told in a very bad manner that would have had a fan base, because it's just the one thing of why I'm a fan of it. No. It was a bunch of small things that made Star Wars Star Wars. You just took the most iconic parts as a casual viewer and thought that was the reason. Like the slow-mo in The Matrix. Like, it was more than just the slow-mo in The Matrix. You take out the slow-mo in The Matrix, the movie is still very, very good. You know? Again, for me, like I said with Star Wars and prequels, at least as an example, it was kind of like the culture around the Jedi themselves, seeing, you know, their slow fall, seeing Palpatine rise to power, and how he was able to rise to power. Not the fact that he did, but just how he was able to do it. And the most important part for me was the romance between Anakin Skywalker and Padme, which they never fucking talk about Padme, and I'm so mad about that, because she is such a intricate character to Anakin. It's like, you can't have one without the other. It's like, you can't have Bruce Banner without Betty Ross. Like, she's just that important. You can't have Clark Kent, you can't have Lois Lane without Clark Kent, and vice versa. Like, they kind of exist within the same person. But that's one of the reasons why I've actually moved away from Star Wars a little bit more, in terms of, like, you know, anything centered around a prequel, because I wish they would have put more emphasis on Padme, because she's one of my favorite characters. So imagine, you know, it being a Star Wars and your favorite character, Darth Vader, not showing up. You know, it's like, it kind of becomes a little bit more disappointing, even though the story is still good. I wish it had some of my favorite characters that I feel is very integral to the plot and story, but that's beside the point. But it's never just one big thing. And so what EA and Disney got wrong is, like, they just want to see people fucking swing laser swords all day. It's like, no, man. For one, like I said, lightsaber battles, that's number one. They're called lightsaber battles. And every fight that happens, you know, it's not necessarily for spectacle, you know? The reason why these fights are happening is because they're fighting over something that's important. You know what I mean? Not for the sake of just fighting each other. But like I said, for people, like I said, context isn't important for a casual viewer. They just want to see someone swing a fucking laser sword. Fans, they like to know context behind why they're swinging those lightsabers, because that's what makes the battle so much more engaging. Like Obi-Wan fighting Anakin, like, again, that's an engaging fight, man. It's a very sad fight, because, you know, each party is fighting for something really, really important. You know what I mean? Rather than just, oh, we're fighting because we just don't like each other. Like, no, that's not it, bro. I'm sorry. It's there's more than just that. But again, for the casual viewer, they can just swing a lightsaber and not like each other. That's okay. It looks really cool to see them flip and dip around and stuff while swinging very bright colored, you know, weapons. That's cool to me. Like, yeah, as a casual viewer, you are going to eat that shit up, but as a fan, you won't. You would want more context. You would want more lore. You're gonna want more good acting and writing based around what you've learned so far from the series, and seeing some things that might have been hinted at come to fruition. You know what I mean? For the first time, it's like, oh, cool. You know, the thing that they were building up to actually happened. You know. I'll give you another example why I'm very disappointed with the sequel trilogy, and I'll make this point very, very quick, is I always thought that the character of my favorite sequel character, what's his name? What's his name? Fucking Kylo? I thought they're gonna do something special with the character. And as he sat down, you know, during the trailers and was looking at the very, you know, demented version of Darth Vader's melted helmet and say, I will finish what you started. Those weren't words, I feel, coming from an evil character. That was the words coming from someone who actually did want the best for the rest of the world, right? And the reason why I say that is because think about what Darth Vader did, you know what I mean? Is he was ultimately the downfall of the stormtroopers, the Empire, but unfortunately they were able to rebuild. And so what Kylo, I felt what he was going to do based on the writing and the trailers, you know, and I will say that the writing would be what I'm going to explain later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Is I thought he was going to be a character that was going to do the exact same thing that Darth Vader did. Is I thought that he was okay. Basically when he was on the bridge with his father, Kylo, when he was talking to Han Solo, he's like, I know what I must do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. It shows that he was apprehensive by killing his own father, because again, in order to gain the trust of Snoke, I feel he would have to do something as evil, you know, and committive to the dark side, as in killing his own father, which I know is something he didn't really want to do, you know. He did that for two reasons, I felt, in terms of the writing, would be one, kill your father for two reasons. One, to show that you are devoted to the dark side, because that's kind of what it was all about. You know, how devoted are you to the dark side? But also to kind of let your evil side come out. You know what I mean? Being able to kill your father is going to help you get more in tune with the dark side. And then, in the end, you know what I mean? That's when he raises his lights, when things come to a head, and he's in the room with Snoke, and Rey comes into that room to fight Snoke. You know what I mean? You know where I'm going with this, you know, because I feel like Snoke was raised to be the biggest bad guy, you know, of that series. He was the new emperor. He was gonna go into that room. Snoke was gonna say, "Go fight Rey." You know what I mean? Show her the power of the dark side. He was gonna sit there, watch them fight, and then, you know what I mean? He was gonna turn the lightsaber on Snoke, you know? And rather you want to say it would have been a quick death for Snoke, or it would have been a double lightsaber battle or whatever, you know what I mean? Or even the fact it would have been a little bit harder because Snoke is very, you know, in tune with, you know, the dark side of the Force, towards there wouldn't have been a lightsaber battle, but there would have been, you know, a very dramatic fight of trying to fight Force with Force. Again, I feel like that's kind of what it was. Since Snoke was in such an unreachable state, I have to basically show how devoted I am to this character so that I can get into the same fucking room with him so I can kill him, basically. And so that's what I felt they were doing with Kylo's character. And that's why I was so, like, invested in the story, because again, it makes more sense for him to say, I will finish what you started. You know, where Vader at one point, again, did stop the Empire from being a thing. He was one of the first to do that, and for Kylo to feel that way, you know what I mean, would make a lot more sense too. Is I gotta do what you did so many years ago over again, you know? And again, I have to be the one to do it, because no one else has the strength to do, no one else has the strength to kill innocent people as a good-hearted person, and I'm taking on the burden of being that person to do it. Somebody has to get close to this asshole to take him out. Somebody has to, you know? And so again, he's not going to be forgiven for his, you know, for his treachery, of killing innocent people, you know what I mean? But it wasn't really, again, at what cost would be, like, he made the hard choice is what I felt. He made the hard choice of choosing between innocent lives and then killing the fuck out of Snoke, or not doing pretty much anything and Snoke still being untouchable. And so I feel like that's what made Kylo's character so interesting, you know, is the fact that you made the hard choice, you know? The choice that no good-hearted person could ever really make. Which again is such a selfish thing to do, because you killed innocent people's parents and children just so you can get close to this asshole to kind of more or less end the war. I thought they were doing something like that with Kylo's character, you know, because he never really came off as a bad guy, you know, and which is why, you know, I feel that there was always an apprehensiveness to Kylo's character. But the episode 8 completely killed that part for me. It's like you kind of set him up and he's actually a villain, I guess. Okay, Snoke is wearing that weird ass fucking porn robe. That's weird. Snoke is already dead. Okay. And he got killed in one of the most dumbest ways possible. Okay, which would be basically jacking off to the idea of Kylo killing Rey, I guess. Which it was just a very poorly written scene for a Sith Lord as strong as him. You know, which again, his intro was really good with the fact he was able to just like kind of pull Rey toward him and kind of like flip and dip her around and shit, which again, it shows his strength. He doesn't really wield the lightsaber, so that's what he makes up for it in, which makes sense. But it's just like Kylo's character was supposed to be such a complex character. See, and what makes him different from Darth Vader, you know, like, well, that's not much more different from Darth Vader. Like, what makes it different is that he willingly did not want to kill innocent people. He willingly did not want to kill his father. He willingly did not want to kill, you know, and do the things that he did and associate with the people that he associated himself with. And yet he still did, because he made the hard choice, you know, to do those things for the greater good. You know, he took on that fucking burden that no one could ever have, you know, the stomach to do. And that's what makes his character immensely different from any other Star Wars character to ever exist, you know? And man, if they would have went that direction, because that's what was set up to me at least. Because again, Darth Vader was never evil. And if anybody worth their salt in the universe knows anything, we know that Darth Vader did turn on Palpatine. Hell, I mean, even with the whole Palpatine being in the last episode, it was even said that even the actor didn't think he was going to return for the movie. They pretty much came out of nowhere and asked him to be in episode 9. So I can obviously tell what J.J. Abrams was trying to set up, you know what I mean, was something completely different. And then, you know, fucking Rian Johnson came in, did something completely different with the series, and now he's kind of stuck in a position where, well, shit, now I gotta kind of roll with what Rian Johnson did. That's not what I wanted to do, which also shows how much of a hand that Disney had in it as well. You know, because Disney didn't really give a shit. They didn't really care. They just want to see people fucking throw a laser sword so they can make billions and billions of dollars. That was their main thing. So it doesn't matter what the context is. I really don't care. You know, just make the goddamn movie and make sure someone swings a fucking laser sword. Oh, make sure there's a lot of jokes in there too for the kids, because there's gonna be kids watching the movie. So there's a lot of jokes. And so, like I said, it's just like, okay. I mean, there's a lot more other things that were set up in the Star Wars sequel trilogy that I'd rather not get into, because I'm gonna be here all day talking about it. I guess I'll give out one more. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said, that's why I like episode 7 so much. Again, they still have some of the most orgasmic shots in like Star Wars history. Poe Dameron, when they're on that planet, shooting like 8 or 9 different ships in like one shot, bro, showing how good of a pilot he actually, bro, that was orgasmic, bro. That was orgasmic. Again, Finn picking up the lightsaber for the very first time to fight the that one stormtrooper that had that super whatever the fuck that fucking weapon was, bro. He was like, traitor, and he pulled at that thing, he started swinging it around. Like, that was really cool, bro. Like, that was like some like A+ Star Wars moments, man. you know? Like, I really enjoyed that. Those were some really good moments. Like, again, J.J. Abrams did a great job with kind of making me feel like I'm watching a Star Wars movie, you know? But again, like, another thing that was kind of set up, of course, I mean, if you know me in any way, is, again, I like romance, and that's something else that we're kind of like putting together in the sequel trilogy with Finn and Rey. And for me personally, this is just me, right? Personally, I like the fact that they were actually going to put up a interracial relationship on the big screen. I know it doesn't really mean that much to like anybody, but to me, it kind of means a lot. You know what I mean? I've been in interracial relationships, and it's not really something you see too often between a black man and a white woman, or a dark-skinned man and a fair-skinned woman. You don't really get to see those kind of relationships too much on the big screen, and it's not really been done a lot. So them doing that with Finn and Rey as well meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? And so, you know, knowing that they didn't go in that direction with it as well is also, you know, just as disappointing, because when Rian Johnson came in, he just put, basically he kind of like hinted at Rey and Poe getting together in the second movie. And so I was scratching my head, and it was like, but what about what you set up in episode, you know, 7 with Finn and Rey, which their relationship developed over time. I saw the sacrifices Finn made for her. You know what I mean? I saw all the things that he did for her. I mean, there's even one scene, it was very subtle, but when he went to the snow planet, well, the death planet, the Death Star planet thing, you could see her wearing his jacket in the snow. Again, the movie didn't put any emphasis on it, but at one moment she was wearing his jacket, so I'm assuming he offered it to her. It shows that he cares. Also, I'm not gonna lie, he picked up a fucking lightsaber to take on Kylo Ren in protection of Rey, and I feel like that's big too, because his character is very cowardly, honestly, but he only showed some kind of bravery when it came to Rey. So it makes sense that you were going to, you know, really focusing on the relationship in future movies, and they just kind of got rid of it and put Finn with that Asian chick, which that was awkward, and then tried to put Poe and Rey together at the end of that movie, and then in the last one it went absolutely nowhere. And so that was just a big sour fart of disappointment. But yeah, that's basically it. So again, and then to end my thought on the Finn and Rey thing, then after taking off the fact that Finn and Rey was supposed to get together, and Finn was supposed to, I don't know, get with the Asian chick, which that, sure, and then Rey was supposed to get with Poe, and then in the last episode 9, no one got with anybody, and the Asian chick got pushed so far to the background that she didn't even have any fucking lines, and fucking Rey didn't. I forgot that Rey got with Kylo. Oh, wow. I forgot about that. I will say, actually, I saw that moment in the theater first day it came out. I don't think it was Christmas, but I saw it the first day it came out. There was nothing set up between the characters of Kylo and Rey in any way, shape, or form for them to be romantically involved with each other. Other than there was like one shirtless scene in Rian Johnson's movie where she was like, oh my god, Kylo's shirtless, which... But in that movie, after they had their lightsaber battle, which, sure, and Kylo talked to Force Ghost dad of Harrison Ford, which they had to beg to come back to the movie, by the way. They then had the scene where they just... After fighting like the Knights of Ren, I guess, which was, I think, Kylo's students, his partners or whatever. I fucking forgot who the Knights of Ren was because the movie didn't flesh out anything. When they finally kissed each other in that movie, with there absolutely being no build-up to their relationship being romantic in any way, shape, or form, knowing the amount of sacrifices the character of Finn has made toward the character in conjunction, in comparison to the sacrifices that Kylo made to Rey, and then the sacrifices she's made to both for both of them. Just context wise, I'm sorry, it was the very first time I actually got up out of my seat and walked out of the theater. It was the very first time, because again, this is a very important thing to me. I get it. It's not important to a lot of different people, and I understand. But seeing an interracial relationship grow and blossom in a natural state is very, very, very important for a lot of people to see, because it really does stump on the idea of racism, especially since these movies are very kid oriented. But the fact of how badly written that moment was, with the context of what I've seen in previous movies not leading up to this moment actually being a thing, it really spat on someone like me who actually wants to see more interracial relationships on the big screen and romance, actually. But at the same time, it also shows that there is a separate agenda going on behind the scenes, where they felt it would have been better for these two characters to get together without context. And then what they did with the character of Finn is they put him and put a romantic connotation behind him and some other black stormtrooper chick that's very similar to him. And it's just, again, I'm very romance heavy. I am. I told you. My superhero novel that I've been sporting off for forever is an action romance novel. Romance is really important to me. It is. But it was such a disrespectful spit in the face of both writing, context, and of course me on a personal level, that I couldn't hold my rage together. I got up and I just walked out the theater. I did. It was the first time I've ever done that ever, because it's just, I don't understand why you would do that. Like, why would you set up two characters in episode 7 that was pretty much made for each other, showed a character that would be Finn and his ways of just wanting to not be involved with the stormtroopers anymore, him having some kind of a soul, not wanting to kill innocent people, turning around wanting to get out of it, meeting Rey for the very first time, being impressed by her fighting skills and her you know, fighting nature and fighting spirit, getting to know her a little bit better, helping her get to the planet she was going to get to, and then having the choice of walking off but not walking off and going back and actually doing things specifically for her, not even for the rebellion, but for her, then fighting a fucking Sith Lord and end up getting your fucking spine slashed open because of the fact you did not hold a candle to a Sith Lord that was Kylo Ren, you know, all for her. Whereas, you know, just for that to just go out of the fucking window. One scene in the sequel movie between Rey and Poe, just a look between the two characters, which was setting up romance. You can't tell me otherwise. And to force this other chick into Finn's romance circle with bad writing and no context as well, which I would love to get into detail about how bad that romance was, but that's a separate thing altogether. Only for the sequel movie to completely get rid of that romance they set up between Poe and Rey and Finn and the Asian chick, which I do not know her name because that's how important she was, just to put Rey in a kissing scene with Kylo Ren, to show that even though he has done so many terrible things, killed your surrogate father that was Han Solo, was one of the reasons why fucking Luke Skywalker died, because he had to use the force projection to fight Kylo to just buy some time. None of that shit mattered to you. And all of the innocent people, they destroyed a fucking planet. An entire, imagine just us on Earth and a big death laser just kills all of us. Kylo fronted that attack, and none of that shit mattered to you. And the writer still thought it was good enough to have these two characters kiss. For what reason? What conversations do they have? What things do they have in common? What do they both like together? What do they have that signifies that they can move forward in a life together with each other? We have nothing. And yet they still felt like, because it's not, again, I told you, the casual audience does not care about context. It doesn't matter. It's a romance scene. This is Kylo's redemption arc somehow. And this is basically the writer saying the main character of Rey, which is supposed to be the savior, also forgiving him for all of his sins, I guess. But it's just the forgiving part isn't the issue. It's the being romantically involved when obviously there was another character that was well more suited for you, that has made more sacrifices. So yeah, when I see the two fair-skinned people kiss with no context, and I see the dark-skinned character be forced with a minority and then with another dark-skinned character, which is another minority, out of nowhere, with no context or build up to a relationship, I begin to get a little angry. I do, because my question is why? What was wrong with Finn and Rey getting together? I would like to know. But that is one of the bigger issues I have with the sequel trilogy. One of the more other glaring issues. I got more people to fight.